Hey, this is Doug Bopst, and you are watching and listening to Ever Forward Radio. And today's episode, we talked about the power of community and how you have to hang out with the best people in the world to be your best self.
Awesome. Doug, what's up, man?
What's up, Chase? Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, now that the caffeine has fully settled into our system, we just had a great little small talk sesh up there, getting caught up on life and business and stuff, and finished the coffee. Shout out Strong Coffee. I'm feeling... When I drink this, I can't tell if I feel the caffeine more or the L-theanine or the well, I guess it's all the above. It's just like instant coffee mix stuff that just has all the goodness in it. And my pupils are just like, I feel good. I'm good. Yeah. How are you doing? How's your morning?
It's good, man. Just finished up, just wrapped up, like we were talking about earlier, a 3-day mastermind event here in LA. So just... brain overload, but you just feel good, like, being around people that are doing a lot bigger things than you and also that are on like the same path, right?
Let's pick your brain a little bit on that. So I'll say this is just outside looking in.
Right.
So for me, 2019, maybe like late 2018, but definitely a lot of 2019, it was, hey, I got a mastermind, or hey, I'm joining a mastermind. I feel like that term really got butchered. And I talked to a lot of people who had bad experiences in that. Now, mastermind, this isn't a new concept. It's been around for a long time, years and years and years and years. And it's just a collective. It's a place, it's an agreed upon time and place for people to come together to ideally mutually support each other. And, I think predominantly in business, but it always kind of spills over business and life. What has been your experience? Was this your first mastermind? If not, was it your first or second time with this same group? You don't need to say who it is or whatever if you don't want, but just, why a mastermind and what's been your experience? Like, are you getting value out of it like you thought?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in masterminds for probably the last decade.
Oh, really? Wow. Damn.
Yeah.
You're like a mastermind junkie, man.
Well, I guess. And for me, one of the things you hear a lot about is like, well, you're just paying for friends. And it's not that at all, right? I think, because it's not like there's no coach, there's coaches in the mastermind, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, you could say it's like joining a country club, right? Right?
Yeah, true.
Right?
Yeah.
But no, you really want to, I think, whether you're in personal development, self-development, or, spiritual development, whatever it is, you want to make sure you're hanging out with people that elevate you. And sometimes it's hard to find that in your community.
If you're into trying to make your life better in any way, there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, having somebody who's already paved the way, it's helpful to, like, follow that. Like, success leaves clues, right? So, like, being able to see what people have done that are successful and that you want to learn from.
Yeah.
And then having that community of people around you that support, challenge, and, like, encourage you, like, with no strings attached, just, as far as the people in the mastermind. Because typically it's not like you're having people in a mastermind group that don't want to get better. Everybody who's in there is looking for the same thing. They're all looking to grow in whatever way they need to grow.
Yeah, nobody's walking into that room hoping that they walk out the same, right?
Right.
Or like, no, like, I don't need to learn or want to learn anything else. I don't want to apply anything else. Fair statement?
Fair statement, yeah. And I think we live in a world now where it's changing. Like, it's not the 9 to 5 sit behind your desk every day world we live in anymore. People are starting online businesses, like, by the minute. People are starting podcasts by the minute. The media is changing. So if you have big dreams, not only for yourself in business, but to how you're going to better yourself personally, I think doing the work requires you to be held accountable by other people.
True.
Because I think the biggest mistake people make is they read all these books, they read Instagram quotes. I think that's enough. No, you got to put the work in. Right, and we're meant to travel in packs. We're meant to be in communities of people, and I've learned that.
Absolutely.
So if you're hanging around 9 people that are doing drugs, for instance, right, which is something I did when I was younger,
which we'll get to,
right?
We'll get to.
Chances of you doing drugs are very, very significant.
Yeah.
If you're hanging around 9 people who are focused AF as on getting better, serving their community, trying to make an impact in the world, following their dreams, then chances are you might not get there like within a month or two, but you're going to get a lot closer than if you didn't.
And talk about peer pressure that we could all be okay with, probably. Like, oh, my friends pressure me into Habitat for Humanity.
Right.
My friends, everybody else was scaling their business, so I actually wound up making more money and delivering more impact to my audience as a byproduct. no one's going to blame you for that, you know?
No, and I think you're right.
Like, oh, your friends did that? Oh, man, you suck.
You actually want to get better as a person and be like
Yeah.
kinder and more, learn how to love yourself more. Like, shame on you.
Yeah, what
like,
an asshole.
Yeah, what a jerk, right? And I think people, they look at masterminds, right? And they say, like, ooh, it's like a scam, right? Some people will say that too. Like, what do you get out of it?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Well, you have to align with the right person. Like the ones I've aligned with, I've always said, would I trade places with that person? Not just in their business, but
Interesting.
family life, personal life.
Yeah, what's been your kind of evaluation process when you look at these people that you are going to devote a lot of your time, energy, and resources to and with? What's your kind of evaluation process, selection process?
It's
for
more,
you personally.
It's more like a gut thing for me. So
Okay.
my first guy, I told you, I mean, I'll be very clear on who I align with, Todd Durkin, right?
Yeah.
So I just remember when I first started out as a trainer, I wanted to obviously be successful as a trainer, but I remember like I just was working out at a random gym, and one of the people there was, have you heard of this guy, Todd Durkin? I was like, no. And he happened to be, partner with Under Armour. I was told he trained like, Drew Brees and all these guys, right?
Yeah.
And so I Googled him, and I was like, I remember watching like one of his YouTube videos. Like, is this guy on crack? Like, what is it? Why is he so like fired up all the time? Like, what's wrong with him, right? And I saw he had a mentorship, right? And I just was like, I need to learn how to do like a better lunge or better squat, teach my clients, right? And I signed up, and it wasn't like that at all. I remember like sitting in the room, and he was like, one of the questions we had to answer was like, where do you want to be in 5 years? I was like, shit, I've never even thought about this. And I remember crying because it was the whole like paralysis by analysis.
Oh, I can imagine. Oh, I've been there, yeah.
Right? And you're in a room,
and
you're in a room. I'm like 22, 23 years old, whatever I was. And I'm like, I don't know where I want to be in 5 years. I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 months, 5 days, right? And then the more I got to know Todd after like doing the mentorship, I saw his family life. I saw like how he devoted a ton of time to be with his wife, a ton of time to take it, to be with his kids, coach his kids. I just saw how he was like in his gym. Like it was like everybody was happy, and like you saw everybody was so happy to work there. So I was
to
like,
watch him in his natural habitat.
Yeah, I was like, and he wasn't trying to like sell anything. Like you go to a lot of events, I think sometimes, and people try to always upsell you, and it gets annoying because it's like, are you bringing me here to teach me? You're bringing me here to sell me, right? And I just had this connection with Todd because I was like, I would trade places with that guy. Like, and not to say that my life was bad or anything, but I always look at like, if I'm going to learn from somebody, I better be able to trade places with them, because otherwise, like, what do they teach? What's the
how real is it? Like, how applicable couldn't this be to my life? Yeah.
And then you go all in. You in a community of people, and you end up meeting like lifelong friends in there. Like that's how people always ask, like, how do you build a new community of people after leaving one that was toxic? Whether it was people doing drugs or whatever. This is a perfect example of how to do it. Whether it's that, seminars. I wanted some coaching and some direction because I knew I just didn't want to be just a trainer my whole life.
Okay.
So it was like, how can I be challenged? And it was my first mastermind retreat there. I was challenged to write my first book. I didn't think I had it in me.
Wow.
But they were like, you got a book in, like your story?
Yeah.
Like, and I didn't even think my story was just my story. So I didn't think it was that great, right? Because it's my story. I'm like, eh. And then he's like, that's a book, dude. And I was just like, dude, I barely graduated high school. So it was just like things like that I wouldn't be like sitting here talking to you if I hadn't have made that decision to go into that mastermind group ever. Right? Ever. And even like some of the stuff I've been doing lately in the last couple of years, like if I hadn't been involved in a mastermind group, because they challenge you.
Yeah.
And they like make you look yourself in the mirror and be like, is just you going to choose like your ego, or are you going to choose your heart?
Everything's a choice.
Right.
Yeah.
And even now, like with just joining with Chris and Lori Harder, like I just saw a place where I wanted to take my brand to the next level. And I see what Chris and Lori have built. And I also see how they are as a couple. And I also talk to people who know them. And it's like, when you're talking to like random people who have no skin in the game, they're like, you need to join his mastermind. You need to get involved with these people. I'm like, well, I give it a shot. And then you just see the community of people they're hanging out with. And you just I get a gut feeling real quick. As a trainer, I'm sure you can relate, right? You're able to pick up on people fairly quick, right? You're able to see like who's going to get stuff done and get results and who's not based on how they interact, right?
Body language, energy, like tonality, everything. Yeah.
So I picked up on that really quick with Chris, and I was just like, I could be, he was successful, but he's very humble about it too. Like, that he's successful, but he's not like, he's still like got this humility side to him, and Lori, that they genuinely care about people.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I've met them both, known them for a couple of years, in and out of events and stuff. And, and
it's like you look at like what I'm trying to do is if I'm trying to, grow a podcast, grow my brand, grow an online coaching program, I got to seek out people who are like not only just doing it, but have been really hyper successful and have figured out all the nooks and crannies that they can then coach us on, which have taken years. And it's like almost like you're literally, like, no pun intended, like fast forwarding your results. You know what I mean? Like, and not to take the shortcut, but like, why not learn from people that have, and then you're in a room again, full of people looking to do the same thing, looking to people to grow personally, grow spiritually, grow professionally, so that they can continue to, live their best life, and then be able to like live a life of service for others, right? And
especially that last part.
Yeah, being of service to others.
Yeah.
And the Harders are like super philanthropic. They're very involved with charitable organizations. Same with Todd Durkin. Like people that's the kind of people I want to be around.
Yeah.
I don't want to be around, because I think money exposes people. You see what people do when they go broke, right? You see how they act. You see how they treat people.
It brings out true nature.
Yeah. And the same with when you have a lot of money. I mean, you're going to be the guy who just hoards all your money and says, this is all mine, and me, or you're going to be the person who's like, you know what, I'm really thankful that I got to that place. Why not help other people, in less fortunate communities?
We all feast now.
Right.
Yeah.
So mastermind, and that's where people get it wrong. I mean, they're like, they don't understand, because they've never been in a mastermind. They don't get it. They don't understand like the power of community, because in Baltimore, I don't know anybody, really doing what I'm doing. But I could come to a group like I did this week, and there's 40 people doing the same thing I'm doing.
I felt that way too when I was back east. I loved what I was doing, but I'm sure you can relate. Baltimore, DC, East Coast, at least when I was there, maybe it's getting better. It's not the most like creative, pro scenario.
No.
I kind of felt like I tapped out a little bit in terms of just the community aspect, because every time I would come back and forth from California, East Coast, West Coast, there were more people doing things like you said that I could see myself doing. People that were taking action on their own business, or just a side hustle, just a passion project, or just engaging with other human beings on a level that wasn't like, hey, how can you help me get up into, the Senate kind of thing? Or, get up into Congress, or, who do you work for? Who do you know? I mean, that's all well and good. I'm not trying to knock it. Like you pick your path in life and you do what you got to do to succeed, for sure. And my paths were changing, and it sounds like yours have been for a while too, man. And I know now, going to masterminds, going to just real life events, just engaging with people, being in a room full of people that are seeking out your success as much as their own, is it's not somewhere where you've always been. The crowd that you used to run with, the people that you used to have in your life, didn't seem to have your best interest at heart, man. So like, why is this so important to you now? And what's the difference between the people you surround yourself with now versus, a decade ago, 12 years? I mean, just really not that long ago, but just, the season of your life before this, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was just running around with people that I thought were the cool crowd, like thinking people who I could fit in with, right? And it was
anybody that would accept you.
Anybody who accepted for who I was.
Yeah.
And people who are doing the same stuff. I think we're creatures of habit in our environment. Like, I think no matter what we're doing in life, where we are at, we're going to seek out people doing whatever
Especially
we're doing.
in high school.
Right.
I'll do anything. Just let me sit at your table at lunch.
Yeah. You can have my cookies, I swear, right?
Oh, I can't tell you so many times things like, oh, yeah, I watched that movie. I love that card game, or I love this whatever. Like, I didn't fucking know what the other time.
They're like, yeah, you remember the time when that? And I'm like, they're like, you didn't watch it.
I think I was like helping my mom or something.
Yeah. So and at that time in my life, I was using drugs as a way to mask all my insecurities, to put on these masks of low self-esteem, low self-confidence, fear, doubt, all these things that I had, that I sought out other people that were doing the same.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And the more I did that, the more I realized, and this has taken a lot of self-reflection, because trust me, back then, especially when I was in jail, and we'll get into that, I was blaming my friends. I was saying it's all their fault. Like, they influenced me, when really it's like, dude, I have a brain myself, and I can, and a choice, right? So to me, it felt normal to be like smoking a 1/4 ounce of weed a day, which, you know, talking to people out here, it's like, dude, that's awesome. I'm like, no, dude.
2020 LA, that might be normal.
No, I know. Like, me too.
But, you know, the reason behind it was
different, right? I'm not out here like
yeah.
doing it because I like the taste of like whatever blend. I mean, I haven't smoked in so long. I don't even know what it's like, right? But I was doing it because I was so unhappy with myself that I needed something to give me a reason not to think about that shit, right? And so we just started experimenting with more things, and it became like a norm. I think our environments, Chase, give us a false sense of normalcy, right? Like we think that that's normal.
It seems like comfort at first.
And then you realize
we don't question it.
When you get out of it,
yeah,
you're like, shit, that was so effed up what we were doing, right? And so like we just kept smoking pot, and then like, you know, the more drugs you do organically, you meet more people doing drugs. And so your network starts to spread. And then I got introduced to the ability to sell it. I was like, shit, now I got people. I hadn't felt like people who wanted me in my life. Like I felt like this yearning for love, like we've talked about earlier.
I bet you had people hitting you up.
Oh my God,
in a way that you never had before.
Talk about, and the dopamine response. And like, I would get like 60 phone calls a day, text messages. Hey, yo, man, can we meet up? I need this, I need that. And I felt like needed and wanted, which I never really had that before because I was always like the fat kid in school. I was always picked last in sports. Had no luck with women because I was just this like kid who should have been a model for Pillsbury. And so like in my mind, I was always like, well, what's wrong with me? Why don't people love me? Why don't people like me? And I'm sure there was people I'm sure my parents loved me, right? I'm sure, and there was people who did love me. I'm not saying that, but to me, I honestly didn't feel.
You didn't feel like you were receiving it in a way that you received love.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and so
your love language wasn't being met.
Right. And then so through that, I, you know, we just started experimenting with Coke, and, you know, when you're snorting like an 8-ball of Coke a night, and just getting after it and snorting Coke. And then like we were snorting so much Coke, a buddy of mine had a prescription of Adderall, and we would use that to come down. Right. Yeah. I mean, I do. When I say I'm lucky to be alive, like I literally like buried like 10 people in my life, you know?
Oh my God, man.
I mean, these aren't just people like, that like I knew. These are like friends. Like, I mean, a couple really close friends
from like drug overdoses and
drinking and driving, overdoses, and just people I used to run around with.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I'm almost like immune to funerals now. It's weird. Like I remember just people were like, "How are you not crying?" Like at my grandparents' funeral. I'm like, I've been to so many funerals that like I'm immune. I don't want to say I'm immune to it, but like I kind of like
desensitized.
Yeah, very.
Absolutely.
And
like, oh no, it's just every third Wednesday of the month I have a funeral. Like, like it becomes your norm.
Yeah, and then like the more I got involved and deep in the community of drugs, I started getting this like massive anxiety, right? Which people
about what?
I think it was like, why am I doing this?
Okay,
like what is going on in my life? Like I had all these great aspirations when I was a kid. Like I wanted to, I dreamed of being an astronaut. A broadcaster. If you look, it's weird.
Limitless potential is
like all this stuff, right? And I was like a decent kid. And I was a smart kid. I was a loving kid. I just had no confidence within myself to put it all together and connect the dots. And so I started getting these anxiety attacks, which back then, this was 2007, no anxiety attacks weren't a thing. Like nobody was talking about mental health like that. Like mental health like everywhere now, right?
Yeah.
Back then, it was like I didn't even know what an anxiety attack was. Like, so to the point where I was so high on Coke one night, and I was, smoking cigarettes, smoking weed, all this stuff. My heart started racing. I started getting like chest pains. My face went numb.
Oh my God!
And I thought I was having a heart attack.
Sure,
because I was like, I mean, I had lost friends to drugs, right?
Yeah.
I was completely the most unhealthy person ever. And I was high on Coke. So I was like, well, maybe I'm dying. I remember getting rushed to the ER that night.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like in this bed. I'm like, oh, it's so funny. I'm running to the ER. I'm like, help, I'm dying. And they're like, sir, sit down. And I'm like, no.
By the fact that you were running around saying I'm dying means you're not dying.
Right. Yeah. And they were like, you're just having a panic attack. And I was like, what's a panic attack? And so I had to literally I remember getting a book, and all my friends would make fun of me. They're like, go read your book whenever I have a panic attack. So much stuff, like thinking about it.
Doug won't sit down. Someone give him a book. Give him a pamphlet.
So I literally would have to read this book to understand like what it was. This is back in 2007. So like I had no idea. But all I knew is in my mind, my brain had just said drugs, anxiety, drugs, panic attack.
Sure, yeah.
So a normal smart person would say, I'm gonna stop I'm gonna stop doing drugs, right?
If A equals B, cut out A.
Yeah, if A equals
not so much.
no, if A equals B, somehow I still have to get A to equal B and be safe, right? Because again, it wasn't like I was like in this circle of people that I'd been hanging out with for years, for a long time. I was so insecure that I was like, well, how am I going to make new friends if I'm not hanging around this circle? I'm using drugs to mask all kinds of insecurities, right? Yeah. So I'm like, I got to find a way to keep doing drugs. So like what happened was a friend of mine, and I knew like, he gave me I knew what he was about to give me wasn't like the healthiest thing. I just didn't know how addictive painkillers were. I mean, I knew I wasn't putting like a kale smoothie in my body, but I honestly like, and I'm not like blaming the drug company. I take full responsibility. I honestly just didn't know. Like I thought, I'm not doing heroin. It's not bad, right?
I've been there, man. I was medically prescribed back in the military, and I mean, yeah, that shit is amazing.
Yeah.
But you really don't like. I'm with you. I can say that I was honestly not prepared. I was not educated to the point that I should have been about, hey, here are things to look out for when you're actually addicted.
Yeah.
When you're hooked, because when you need to start adding dose after dose after dose, next thing you know, I fucking knocked myself out unconscious, had a seizure back in the hospital, and they're like, what happened? Oh, you've been on Vicodin and Dilaudid for 8 months. Like, no shit, Chewning. Like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks, Sarge. Bad news? All right, cool. Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's a slippery slope that no one prepares you for.
Yeah, and like, so like a 5 milligram perk, I was able to take that 5 milligram perk, and the same like monkey that came off my back, those same masks came off it then, because now it's like, oh, I can still smoke weed. I can ride around like rip bong hits and like listen to Cottonmouth Kings and Biggie and Tupac while I'm like,
I can still hold on to that identity.
Yeah, I can still
hold on to that lifestyle,
and I can still be who I thought was me at that time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be shamed for like leaving the pack, right?
You don't have to sever connection.
No, because at this point too, my relationship with my family was terrible.
Yeah,
I'd been kicked out of my mom's house when I was 16, kicked out of my dad's house when I was 17. So like my community was my community. It's kind of like gangs, really. I mean, and it's very
who
similar.
will accept me?
Yeah,
who will accept me?
You're like that was my family in a way, right? And so 5 milligrams turned into me like, snorting, 300-400 milligrams up my nose every day, to the point where like half my left nostril was missing because it was so like corroded, like all this here.
Damn.
I had to literally snort a couple 100 milligrams just to get out of bed in the morning. Like that's how like I just was be dope sick. I couldn't move, the pain.
Wow. And withdrawals,
and I tried. I tried coming off it because there were so many people that were like, they would come to me and they were like, Doug, like you're such a nice kid. Like, what are you doing to yourself? And inside, I knew how upset and angry and depressed I was. But on the outside, I made everyone seem like I was okay.
Yeah, actually, I want to ask you right there. Who knows? I mean, not to discredit anything anyone was saying to you, but like when you were hearing that, like, was it just like, oh, you're just an adult, you're just someone in my life that has to say it? Like, did you actually hear that? Did you believe that? When they're saying, I'm sure, like, Doug, you're better than this. Like, you're a good person. Like, did you hear that fully? Because it sounds like maybe you did a little bit because you were having a little bit of an inner dialogue. Like, did you believe that? And if not, why?
I mean, I did and I didn't, man. So, like, I did because in the back of my mind, I was like, well, it doesn't seem like what I'm doing is right.
Sure. Okay.
But I also knew, and also in my back of my mind, I was like, this is all I know. And how am I going to get out of this?
So was it the duality of this is all I know is right, but this is my life. So how could my life be wrong? Kind of
right.
thing.
And this is what I knew. So like, how could I be doing? This is what I know what I'm doing. Like, don't talk to me. I don't want to hear you. I didn't want to hear it. Sure. I think a lot of times people, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear someone telling them that inside they're better than this, or inside they know that they believe.
Why?
I think it's just because you don't believe. I didn't believe in myself. So hearing that just made me feel like they were trying to talk down to me, and they were trying to. They're like they don't know what it's like to be me. You put up this.
You think you're high and mighty.
Yeah. Like, you put up this wall, right? And you're like, you don't want to hear anything from anybody else, when really, You know, they're coming at it from a place of love to what they know, right?
Right, yeah.
But I had planned on dying. Like I literally like.
You had already accepted that.
I was like, I'm going to die by the time I'm 25 years old. I swear. Yeah, I literally knew I was going to die.
So you just accepted the path that I'm on now is the path that I'm going to stay on, no matter what these people think otherwise of me. And I'm just going to accept that by the time I'm 30, someone else will be bearing me.
Yeah, and
damn, man,
idolized like the people who died when they were 27, like the Jimi Hendrix, the Jim Moore. Like that was like cool to me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like Kurt Cobain, like that was cool back then, right?
That's so punk rock, dude.
Yeah, I know. Even like and so I remember I would literally like cut up lines of like Oxy and Coke together, and I would literally just be like, man, I hope I don't wake up after snorting this. Like that's how my mind. That's how like rock bottom my mind had gone, and I had so many things that I thought were going wrong in my life, whether it was thinking I'd never be in love or thinking I'd never rekindle have like a family because my relationship with my parents was so rocky, or that I didn't go to school, I didn't go to a 4-year college or what. I mean, I go on and on and on about all the excuses I made to why I was feeling the way I did.
We all do. We are the first ones and our biggest advocates for making excuses as to why we don't change or why we can't. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it really, I think everything kind of came to a head when I got arrested and I went to jail, and that was like what, I don't want to say it woke me up because I was already like woken up to the point where I was like, well, in my mind I was like, if I'm telling myself I'm gonna die when I'm 25, like there's something wrong with that.
And I remember in listening to your story, in the instance where I think that was one of the biggest catalysts for you that like really made you zig when you were zagging. When you were pulled over with the group of friends and they searched the car and they hauled you away and they found all the shit in the car. That with what you just said before, like, I hope that I don't wake up tomorrow. I want to take this and not wake up kind of thing. Do you think that like subconsciously, like you had like this hope? I know Adam asked you this, like, did you want to get caught?
Yeah, it's funny because I was on Rich Roll's podcast and he asked me the same thing. It was both
because it sounded like you had hope for change, but you just like consciously or subconsciously knew that you couldn't do it yourself.
And I don't know if it was like God, being like, if you're not going to change, I'm going to like force your brain to not let you change, and I'm going to freaking do it for you. Yeah. Because I was riding around with a busted headlight for months, which is like the cardinal sin of like drug dealing.
Oh my God.
Like you don't do that. Like that's like you just, it's like eating pizza every day trying to lose weight.
It's the most obvious thing. It's the most obvious thing for everybody to pull you over.
And so I had that, and then when they came and pulled me over, my buddy had an open container and they asked me if they could search the car, and I'm like, yes, you can search the car.
What a noob. What a noob.
Yeah. I was like, dang. I was like, I need to reread the drug dealer's handbook. But honestly, I've been selling drugs for so long, and that wasn't the first time I've been pulled over before. I mean, I remember I was pulled over several times. One time we just baked the crap out of the car, and we got pulled over, and the cops were like, "Is everything okay in here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, everything's all right." I was like,
but yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
I'm high as hell, man. I'm great.
I'm like, yeah, I just got stung by a bee. That's why my eyes are so red. Right. So I knew what to do and what not to do. I just got to a point
that I didn't care anymore.
I didn't care.
You didn't care.
I mean, you get to a point where you're saying you want to snort something and die, like you're not worried about fixing your headlight.
And when you don't care about things in your life, or if you don't care about all the things in your life, what happens? You lose intention. You lose paying attention. You get careless in every aspect of your life. That's literally just opening up this void in your life and in the universe for anything and everything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Right.
And like that happened. Yeah. You didn't care, but I heard a little bit of like hope in that as well, because it kind of seemed like maybe it was everything that everyone was telling you. Like, Doug, you're better than this. Maybe kind of beginning to have this inner dialogue, this first initial stages of awareness. And then doing this, riding around with a busted headlight, saying, yes, you can search my car, put you onto a path, found yourself in jail, and you had this interaction with this cellmate that kind of like put you on the path to fitness. So what's it like having your like fitness transformation life story coming from a cellmate? That's one that I don't hear all the time.
Well, it's weird, man, because it's like the unsung hero, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes people are placed in your life for reasons you don't think they are.
Are you an angel?
I'm like, dude, are you real right now?
Yeah.
But I just remember, I was almost, first of all, when you report to jail, they gave me a few weeks to get my stuff, get situated. They were like, all right, this guy obviously has to get his life together. So we'll give you a few weeks for
so from conviction before you actually have to.
Yeah. And I was almost late to jail because I was getting high. I was snorting pills. Like my family was like waiting for me at like the gates to like give me a hug.
So you're like, just one more hit,
one more hit, like one more line.
Wow.
And I almost literally was late to jail, like to the point like if you're late, like reporting, I don't remember the time it was supposed to be. I mean, it was like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, something like that. But if you're late, it's considered like escape charge because technically you're supposed to be in jail. Like technically I was supposed to be in there.
Like at that moment, you're supposed to be behind bars.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I remember my mom telling me like,
it's like being AWOL in the military.
When those gates closed, just that pain and that look on her face, right? So I get in there. I start obviously detoxing for the first few days. I mean, they're hard, man. Like uncontrollable bowel movements. Feeling it felt like I was trying to crawl out of my own skin, like literally panic, like, everything.
Did they like assist in that in any way?
No.
Or was it just like, hey, just chill in that whole?
Well, it was more. I mean,
supervised
specific. No, that wasn't supervised at all. Specifically, what I remember is they gave me something to help with like nausea.
Okay,
but it didn't really. I mean, I was just so messed up that you would have had to give me like a prescription for like 7 people to control my nausea. I just remember like vomiting every day for like weeks, and I didn't meet my cellmate until I was in like the common area. You're in until they decide what pod you're gonna go into, and like I remember like being like in these bunks. There's a guy above me, and he was just like, "I hope you're ready for like Friday night fights." That's what he said to me, and I'm like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "What fight?" Friday night, me?
Friday Night Lights? Yeah, I love football. It's great. I love that show.
He's like, yeah, we all box. And I'm like, what? I knew, like, of course, like, I wouldn't last more than 3 seconds because I was the most, like, uncoordinated, unathletic.
Was it legit or they just like, we randomly just start fighting?
I mean, people in there, they'll fight, man. Because, I mean, it's just like.
Shit. What else are you going to do?
Right.
Damn. Wow.
And luckily, I don't remember exactly how it happened. I mean, I didn't. It's not like I requested anything. I I was like,
I would. Can I get a VIP ticket?
Can I go in the hole? I just want to go in the hole by myself for like a few weeks.
I don't request a room change, please. Not so much here.
Can I get a fridge?
Not so much here.
Right. Yeah. But I remember one night, like at my, they put me in my like pod.
Yeah.
And then I quickly learned it was like the people who were like the low risk people, like people that weren't going to flee, like try to escape, or people that weren't violent, like stuff like that. Because they try to categorize people, I think, based on their charges. I think to a certain extent they can.
Yeah.
I mean, and so I remember like one of the first nights I was in there, like just tell you, like I was screaming. I was having a horrible panic attack because I was also smoking like a pack and a half of cigarettes a day.
Oh, wow.
So coming off that too, like cold turkey. Like I felt like someone was like stepping on my chest, like all this stuff on top of everything else, top of like the oxy withdrawal, withdrawing from pot. I mean, not the withdrawal from pot. There's no physical withdrawal, but just like the mental thing from pot, right? Yeah. And then I'm in jail, right? And so all the masks came off of me. The mask of trying to fit in, the mask of trying to be somebody all these masks that I've been wearing for the last 7 years were stripped away from me, and it was just me like naked with myself. And so I remember screaming like, help, I'm having a panic attack, help, I'm dying. And like one of the cops was like, if you don't get back in your cell, like you're going to be in trouble or something like that. And I was like, God dang. I felt like I was like an animal in there.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Literally caged.
So I remember like we were in the common area and there was a Scrabble table and the soon to be cellmate was sitting there. And I remember just sitting down there and he looked at me. He was like, what are you doing in here, man? And I was just like, and I stumbled. I had like my charge papers and
like playing Scrabble.
I was like, I was like, you have a cue?
I like to buy a vowel.
So like, I told him my story, and then I think he saw some resemblance in his story too, because he had like a drug problem as well. But he had been in there he was on a detainer. He had been just served 10 years in PA.
Wow.
Came down there because he had violated like his parole or probation in Maryland, and was just happened to be in this detention center with me. And then he was like, "You're gonna start working out with me." And I was like, "Huh?" I was like, "You seen me, man?" Okay. I was like, "The only workout I do is like chips to mouth. You know what I mean? That's my work. Chips and
cookies. This is my bicep curl.
You heard of yarn balls? These are Oreos. So and then that night I remember watching him. He was literally like the more jacked version of Brad Pitt from Fight Club. That's how I describe him. To get a visual.
Wow. Yeah,
and he was doing like thousands of push-ups. Like,
wow.
Worked out for like 4 hours. He would literally like climb all the rails in jail. Like he was climbing, like doing all this stuff. And people knew who he was. He had been there for a little while, and like in jail, the more time you've served, the more respect you get, because they're like, it's just kind of how it is, right? Just like it's like anything, right? Like the more you've been in a job, like people respect you more because you've kind of been there longer.
Did he start a jail mastermind?
Like, sort of, I guess, right?
I've been a prisoner longer than you have. Let me teach you how in 3 easy steps.
Yeah, and just pay me in ramen noodles.
Send me your credits. Yeah.
But like, it was just interesting to me because he was like, "You're gonna start working out with me," and I see him working out. I was like, "Dude, there's no freaking way."
Yeah.
And then, sure enough, like I got through my detox, a few weeks later, and I just remember like, what do I have to lose? I'm in jail.
Yeah,
like,
what else am I gonna do?
What am I gonna do? And it was a conversation. I think it was before that where he like literally was like, I was bitching at him for everything. I was like, God, man, like my parents, my friends. This is where I started to get like a lot of self-reflection. I was like, this and that. He's like, quit being a fucking bitch. That's what he said to me, right? And that's what he's like, you're being such a freaking, pussy. Like, I mean, that's how he, and I know we're in 2020,
Raw
you can't
and
really
real
say, you can't but that's how he, like, and that's what I needed to hear, right? Because it was like, I needed to hear that from somebody who wasn't like a family member of mine, that I felt like was coming at it from a place of like unconditional love, right? And he was like, look at yourself. He was like, you're blaming your parents, you're blaming this, you're blaming. He's like, you got yourself here. Yeah. He was like, there's plenty of people who went through what you went through, but they're not in jail. He's like, you're in jail. He's like, so he's like, you have two choices. He's like, you can either be a man or you can be a bitch. And where I came from, you don't want to be called a bitch. And when you're called a bitch in jail, you've probably lost, right?
Sure.
Somehow.
I can imagine it's not a good thing. Yeah.
So he was like, in the way he put it, wasn't like anything like provocative, right? It was more like very simplistic for me to understand. Like, you can be a man, own your problems, look yourself in the mirror and say, you have the choice.
Or you can keep surrendering.
Yeah, or you can keep just blaming other people, go sit in the corner and cry. He's like, 95% of people do that. He's like, if you want to be part of the masses, then go, but don't hang around me. And he's like, I'm not going to train you unless you really, really take responsibility for yourself.
That was another big detox component for you, I imagine. I mean,
it was
not having access to all those drugs and the cigarettes and stuff like that. Like your physical self went through the detox. Then you had this third party, this objective perspective, non-biased guy, kind of call you out on the people and relationships and community environment that you needed to detox from too, while you were still kind of latching onto it up here.
Yeah, I mean spiritually, and then I went to the spiritual, mental, and emotional detox of all that, right? And I just remember the one night, like getting down to do a push-up. I couldn't do a push-up from my feet, couldn't do one from my knees.
Wow.
And I remember looking at him, and this is how he would talk. I'm like, why can't I do a push-up, man? He's like, because you're fucking fat.
Wow. Damn.
Like, whoa. I was like, I know, but like, he's like, I don't know what else to tell you, man. You're fat. Your stomach's weak. He's like, you see those rolls? He's
Why
like,
can't I do a push-up? Because your stomach's in the way.
I mean, that's how we... And like it, or that's how not everybody relates to that, right?
Sure.
But I related to that for some reason because it just like, it triggered me in some way. Like I didn't have any excuses. I wasn't going to be able to go hide in my room and like snort a line and like forget what he said.
Like, screw you. I'm going to my room. Thank you. Room service send it right up.
And I just like, you know what, man, you're right. Like I have let myself go. And he just was like, I'll train you in here every day.
Okay.
But as long as you show up and as long as you don't quit on me, he's like, I don't want you quitting on me. And then one push-up from my knees led to two push-ups from my knees, led to me being able to do a set of 10 and run a mile by the time I left jail. And with him like encouraging me in there every day, I was able to get, it wasn't this shift in self-confidence I never had. Like this empowerment. I felt empowered for the first time in my life. And that's what I think fitness can do for a lot of people is it gives you control over your body and your mind. And like one more rep, two more reps. Like you have control of that in your mind. You can
consistently influence how you look and feel.
Yes. And so it wasn't the push-ups and the sit-ups that did it. It was more like what they did for me mentally. Like, wow, I can actually set a goal and achieve it. I can stay consistent to something and committed to something. Because before I had 20-something jobs by the time I went into jail when I was 21, like I had some commitment issues when it came to stuff, right? So like being able to have consistency and commitment in there, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make it. I'm going to beat this addiction without going to rehab. I remember everybody, even my family, like I remember my dad coming to visit me in jail. He's like, you know, you're in the glass. This is like a big turning point for me too. I'm in the glass wall, and they're on the other side, and they're on the phone. And I'm talking to him and my two brothers. You know, he's screaming at me like, "You're going to rehab," and I'm like, "Fuck rehab! I found fitness!" Like, and he just kept screaming. Like, I remember looking at him like, "Dude, I'm in jail. Like, how much worse can my life be? Like, why are you screaming? Like, what do you think?
I don't need this right now."
I was like, "What do you?" I'm like, I'm already like, what are you doing, right? Like, and I was just like, you know what, man?
Stop
like,
that.
I was like, I gotta go, man. I was like, I gotta go back into my cell. Like, and I just remember hanging up, walking in with this like, and I talked about this with Tom on Impact. I was like, I had this like look in my face, and he's like, what the hell? He's like, I was like, I need to freaking work out right now. I remember him. He's like, wow,
wow.
And it was that point, like
right there with your family. What are you talking about?
After I left, yeah.
Okay,
after I get back in, I got back into my cell, and I told Eric, my cellmate, I was like, I got to work out right now.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, what? He's like, you're actually volunteering yourself to exercise? But it was then I was able to like learn it to channel pain and like the dark side of like, you know, resentment that I had towards my family and everything into something positive. Huge, right? Because I think that's something that people miss. People think that they can just like flush their anger away or flush their resentment away. You got to like channel that energy into something more positive and reprogram your mind to know that like when something goes wrong, you have to redistribute it into something better. Right? And I think a lot of people get it wrong because they think that the anger is just going to go away and they're just going to sit in it, which is fine. Yeah, you can sit in it, but I think moving it into something positive to do something better for yourself is something that can exponentially help you long term cope with it. And I remember like the last day I was in jail, I cried. Like I literally was in tears, like bawling my eyes out because I was like, what am I gonna do without you, man? Looking at my cellmate, he was wow. And he was just like, I was like, how can I ever repay you? Like I remember looking at him, and he was just like, don't fuck up and pay it forward. And he gave me a workout plan that I still have like framed in my place today, so I never forget where I came from.
Yeah, man.
So it's always like there, and it's like so much sentimental value, and it's got like, you know, terms like, you remember you're no longer a fat ass, eat smart, like you get, you know. And as I look back like at the workouts, it was like do 5 sets of like 8 push-ups, or do like, you know, run 3 to 5 miles or something. And it was just like, you just see how far you've come, how far I've come, right?
No doubt.
And I got out and I was on a freaking mission, right, to just change. And there was times where I felt like not doing things. I remember writing him a letter, and I was like, man, it's cold. I don't feel like running. He's like, he goes, I don't train women. I train machines. He's like, go to Target and get your ass some sweatpants. I was like, okay.
Yeah, so we're talking about you're out of jail, day one, back, you know, in the mall, walking around with people and trying to be like, hey, cool. Nothing sketchy. Like, so what happened?
Yeah, so we pulled over into this Target on the way, and I just knew in my gut, this is not good. So I remember like running into Target. I was like, I'm going in. I'm hiding in here. And I walk out, so I had a prescription of Suboxone in my pocket because when I went into jail, talk about like help, if they gave me any help, I like literally went to a doctor, paid money to piss dirty in a cup, so that I could get prescribed something to help with the withdrawal effects, right?
They come down. Yeah.
So when I got out, I still had it. I was like, well, I might as well take it. It's mine to help like get me acclimated to the real world. It's in my pocket. I'm in Target. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I've been in here for like 10, 15 minutes. Should be enough time. I walk out. I get to my friend's car. Cops like swarm the car. I was like, oh my God. I was like, deja vu, right?
Here we go again. Here we go again.
I was like, you don't understand. I was just in jail yesterday. Like literally, the cops.
I already did my time.
I was like, it's over. Literally, they're like, you know, what are you doing? They ended up like patting me down, and they found a prescription of Suboxone to me. They thought I was selling it to them.
Oh.
And my friends, luckily, were like, he had nothing to do with this. Like, I was like, I just got out of jail. I was like, I swear, because I was like thinking to myself, if I go back in that cell again, I'm gonna get the crap beaten out of me by a lot of people, because I mean the entire community of people was pulling for me. So that was like one of the big turning points of me knowing, you know what, like my friends aren't bad people. We just didn't align with like where I wanted to go.
Look at the evidence. Look at what happens when you're around.
And that's just it just shows the point of like that, right? So I
Talk
ended
about
up
coming full circle, man.
right. So I end up like, you know, I was living with my grandparents at the time. They took me in after I got out of jail, but they had certain stipulations. They were like, you know, you're going to work out.
Sure. Yeah.
You're going to take care of yourself. We'll give you money for whatever you need as long as you bring us the receipts. And then I just ended up like from, you know, right after that, just started like running every day. Started doing my push-ups and the workout routine that Eric gave me when I left.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
And then like one thing led to the next. I ended up, you know, changing the way I ate too, and started reading things like, you know, I read like Arnold's Modern Day Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding.
Oh, yeah, classic, man.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Muscle and Fitness.
Yeah,
I was reading Men's Health, like, and I just started to change my body. I lost 50 pounds.
Wow, huge.
Got to a place fitness-wise. Took me about, I would say like a year. Then I wanted to help other people use fitness to change their lives. So I became a trainer back in, I got hired at my first gym in end of 2010, became a trainer in early 2011.
Okay.
And then kind of ran with it. You know when like you're aligned as crap when things flow like easily.
Say that again, man. Say that again.
You know that you're aligned as crap when things flow easily. And that's what happened with my training business. Like I just was literally like, I became like the most successful trainer in like the history of the gym, like in my first year.
When the friction not disappears, but when it becomes easier, becomes more manageable, when, man, it's just like, talk about being in alignment with, you know, my belief system in the show here. It's just when things are pulling you in a direction in life that you are just like, yes, yes, yes. Or even if it's not an obvious yes, I don't really fully understand what's happening or why I want to do this thing or where I'm going, but I just know that it is right for me. Being pulled into a direction in life instead of being just feeling pushed by old belief systems and people and environments, like that's it, man. That's huge. So like,
yeah, and I just felt like this, or
you're in the wave.
This way of being able
to
share my story with other people and like how I was able to relate to them at their pain points.
Sure, yeah.
It was very natural to me because I was very open about it. Like I was like, you know, I don't care. Like I'll share whatever.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I started seeing a lot of success as a trainer, and I started like burning out though. Like I started like just training so many clients that I just had no time to myself. And
said every trainer ever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So then I discovered. That's when I started discovering Todd Durkin.
Yeah.
And you know, joined his mastermind, and then I got pushed to write my first book, From Felony to Fitness to Free, back in 2014, to inspire people to make the most of their second chance, turn negative into a positive, and that life's about choices you make, right? Like we all have choices. I decided to get up and brush my teeth. That was a choice today, right? I had a choice whether I was going to show up to this interview today. That's a choice I make.
Thank you. You showed up and with fresh breath.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Two great choices today.
Yes. So, and then after that, I just was like, well, what's next? That was like the thing for me. It's like, I think a lot of people want like momentum.
Yeah.
Like, what's next? I can do this. Okay. I accomplished this. What's next? And that's the whole thing of setting goals. Like you achieve a small goal. Like, okay, what's next? What's next? And then sure enough, 10 small goals might turn into one like large goal because you're able to look back and say,
absolutely,
like, look what I've done.
Yeah.
And then, I just started to really get really passionate about sharing my story and my message. And I started doing some small speaking engagements here and there. This is like 2015, 2016. And then, you know, wrote my second book, Faith, Family, Fitness, I believe. And gosh, it's been end of 2015, because I actually became a Christian, a born-again Christian at the end of 2015. And when I say I'm like the way I talk about it is that it's more about like the resurrection part that makes that relates to me.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I feel like I've lived two different lives.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I died. Like part of me died.
Yeah.
And I have somebody else's memories inside of me. And
it's powerful, man.
Yeah, and and it helped me realize that like I couldn't make up the fact that a guy is helping me in jail use fitness to save my life, and now I'm helping other people use fitness to change their lives. I couldn't do that myself, and the minute I thought I could, like all by myself, is like you lose, because then it's like life's about me. And
it's all about you. Yeah, absolutely.
And then I just started being more of service, trying to be more of service. How can I help other people? How can I use my message and my story? Like, what's next for Doug? And I started getting really passionate about training other people who were struggling with drug addiction, like having them use fitness to be a foundation for their recovery.
Amazing. A springboard into what's next.
Yeah. And then, then that was like another building block. And then my next building block was I'm going to write another book. I always like feel like the books I've written are a reflection of where I was in my own personal journey. Anything I've
Sure.
done is where in my own personal journey. So I wrote my third book that got published last year called The Heart of Recovery, where I interviewed a bunch of people from all walks of life who had beat drug addiction, and I asked them how they did it. But I had certain questions that I knew that I wanted to pry out of people. What was their fitness routine like? What kind of people did they hang out with? What did they do? What was their self-awareness, like spirituality? All these things that I knew were crucial to no matter what recovery program you followed, nothing like was any different. You had to, take care of your body, hang out with good people, be self-aware, and have a spiritual thing, whatever it is for you.
All the foundational stuff is all the same.
Yeah.
it is all the same because it works for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, you know what? I want to go on a tour to share my story more. And I want to get it out there. And I was on a mission. And then, my story went on the Today Show, and the Today Show was came to Baltimore.
Oh, no way, man. That's huge.
And
Congrats.
for 2 days, and spent 2 days with me, and
That's huge.
followed me around. And then got into men's health and doing all these things that I was like, wow, this is helping a lot of people. I'm getting a lot of people reaching out to me saying how much this helped. I'm going to continue to go on a tour of shows of people that I listen to and that I like. And that's when I just became relentless about being how can I get on shows with Tom Bilyeu? How can I meet, the Hollises? How can I people that I had a lot of respect for
Dream big to help you act big.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
and
man.
so,
keep that momentum going you're talking about. Yeah.
And then that was just more how I wanted to continue to build my brand of being that guy who was authentic and genuine and helping other people rediscover themselves to be their best self, while also, trying to grow a business out of it, which is kind of where I'm at now, where I'm all right, I've done this. I've been able to take my story, and get on these podcasts that I listen to, get on different shows. How can I help other people who are in a similar spot? Maybe they don't have not everybody has my story, but people who want to get
where can we connect? Where can we mirror some similarities so that you can see what's possible?
Right.
Yeah.
So how can I help people who want to get their message out there, who want to grow a brand? Maybe they have a smaller podcast that they want to get out there, but they want to get more exposure. How can I help show them the way of what I did to get on shows that people they listen to? And that's kind of again, where I'm at right now. I talk about where I'm at. I do things based on where I'm at in my journey, using the lessons and the failures and the successes I've had to then pave the way for other people. And I think that's what life's about. You get to a point where you're all right, I've done this, I've had some success. How can I give back and be of service to show other people to do that? And then also when passion, purpose, and prosperity come together, that's when profit comes, right? Because now now you're doing it for something in your heart and your soul. And along the way, when people get on podcasts, by the way, you got to coach them on feeling secure with themselves, confidence, who they're hanging out with to make sure.
It's public speaking, really.
Taking care of themselves so that they're not bombing interviews, and making sure they're so in tune and so secure with who they are that they're open to talking about anything, and they're open to being thrown curveballs during because these are all things that people don't think about, and being able to have the self-esteem that gets set for someone to tell you no 8 times.
Yeah,
that's happened to me a lot. I mean, a lot of people are well, you got on. I was you know how many times somebody said no to me? Tons. You know how many times people were you're not a good fit, but you keep following up and you keep following up and you keep following up, and you say okay, I might not have been a good fit last year, but look what I've done. Look what I've done now. Look what I've done now. And so that's my main thing now, is trying to get people to be able to understand that they can be their own person to get themselves involved with getting on different shows. Yeah. But it has to start from within, absolutely. Right?
Yeah. Do you ever feel triggered? Maybe it's an aggressive word.
You can say it. I don't care.
Do you ever feel triggered when you're putting yourself out there now? Because you're in the season of your life and in the season of business, need to get out there, want to get out there. It's this kind of need, want, compulsion to kind of pay it forward and share your story on these different platforms. Do you ever feel triggered when it is a no to past life, Doug, of not being accepted into this group? When that's what I heard in your story so much for so long was, man, you were just this kid from divorce home looking for acceptance. You were looking for acceptance in high school, and that put you down the path of being in jail. And then you wanted to kind of create your own community now, one that you could not say control, but from a positive starting point, and then other people could come and feel like they were a part of that as well. Do you ever get triggered kind of feeling like, oh, am I not being accepted again? Or am I in the wrong community again? You know, should I kind of go back to where it was an easier yes?
No, I mean, I'm not to say that like I don't beat myself up from time to time, be like, you know, like why didn't this happen? I mean, because of course it's human nature, but I've done so much work on myself the last 10, 11 years that I know I'm where I'm supposed to be because I'm where I'm supposed to be. That like I just realized like certain things are meant to happen for me and not to me, I guess. And like I mean, when I say that, I'm not just saying it 'cause like. I honestly believe that. Like if somebody says no to me, I'm like, ah, cool. Like I understand. Like I mean, somebody told me no for a show not too long ago. I was like, well, hey, I have a friend who might be a better fit than me. That might fit your audience better than I do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because then it keeps the relationship going. It just shows that I'm not, you know, a crybaby or whatever.
And that shows truly like it was out of, hey, I want to try to find a way to make a valuable experience for your show. It's not with me. Cool. Hey, I know somebody else who might be able to. That's, I think, true intentions. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. And sure, when you get into a group, like when you're joining a new mastermind, it's kind of scary to be like a smaller fish, right? Sure. Be like the dumbest person in the room. But it's also like, you know, it's just like you got to give them that look, you know, and be like, let's freaking go, right? And it's on you to make the decision to be like, are you going to let this drain you? Or are you going to let it invigorate you? Like, are you really going to make the most of the people and the energy and the positivity around you in a different group? Or are you going to be that person who uses your insecurities and ego as an excuse not to try things, right?
Absolutely, man.
Especially as a male, right? As a male, it's like
I would agree. Yeah, it kind of feel that a little bit more.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone listening right now? Speaking of that look, you know, we want to change that outlook on our life. What would you say to someone listening right now? Maybe they're in the backseat of that car where you were, surrounded by a bunch of people who are on drugs, using drugs, not like just in any way, shape, or form, makes them feel some kind of way, like they're questioning, like, is this my group? Should I be here? They're listening right now. They're looking out at these people. Like, what would you have them kind of walk through in their mind to like really evaluate? Am I surrounding myself with the right people, places, and things for the things that I feel like I truly am capable of in life?
Well, first, I think I would have to say that they want to make sure they're focusing on within themselves, doing whatever they need to do in life to get strong, right? Taking care of themselves physically, the way they talk to themselves. That's like a big first step because then you can start to own more of your truth because otherwise it's easy to look at other people and say they're doing all these wrong decisions. So like it's them, right? So that would be a first thing is like, I know it's not easy to hear, but like if you're asking somebody that, like make sure you're doing everything you can to maintain your strength within yourself. And then also like, what would that if you had a dream of somebody who your highest self in the future of somebody who you were just saying like had this vision of a better life, would they hang out with these people? Would they or would they not? Right? Would they what would they say to you? And then also like look at like where your life is. Where has these people in your life? How have they influenced you? Have they influenced you further from your goals, closer to your goals? I would also say, do these people, if you're so in tune with yourself and where you want to go, do they share the same common futures with you? Or is it just simply a common past? Because I believe people get so caught up in the fact they've been friends with somebody for like 20 years.
And that's the only reason. Well, why are you still friends with them? I've known him since fourth grade. Like, and
yeah, like what else? Like we played t-ball together. You know, like
cool story, bro.
yeah.
I mean, it's human nature. I mean, I've definitely been there. We keep people in our lives, and I mean, honestly, bitter truth. Sometimes we might be that person in other people's lives that the only reason we stay connected is just because we have a connection, or we had a connection, and like. I'm a firm believer, and I've gone through this in my life, that, you know, people are meant to be in your life for seasons. I feel like there are certain people that are just meant to be in your life. There's a season of your life that you need this person. There's something there that they are there to teach you and vice versa. And then it's like they go back out into the mist, you know, and then you got to move on. You take everything that you need from it. Like you serve each other how best you can. And then sometimes it's just like, all right, on to the next thing. It's no harm, no foul. It's just, how are we influencing each other? And hopefully it's for the better.
Because I mean, it's more so just as much about them as it is about you.
Exactly.
Like you being able to add value to their lives.
Yeah.
And support them in a way that what they're going. Because if all they want to do is do drugs the rest of their lives, and you don't, you're doing them a disservice by continuing to hang around them and just fake it till you make it.
Yeah, and not to try to sit here and cast judgment on anybody. Like, I think certain activities people would agree are more acceptable or more beneficial to long-term health and wellness and happiness. I'm not here to cast judgment on anybody, and you're not either. But it's just like, is that what you want? And if it is, then there you go. You got your support system. But if it isn't, question them, question the environment, question yourself, and just realize you can take action and choose, like right now, today. Like, you can choose to not be a part of this anymore. You can choose to become stronger physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Beautiful, man.
It's all about choices.
Yeah. So the final question I ask everybody, kind of in alignment with our belief system here, and a lot of seasons of life for me, is like, what's next? Like we were saying, what's next? What's next? How do we move forward? Ever forward. What does that mean to you? How do you live a life ever forward?
So I just make sure that I'm continually doing whatever I can to be relentless about becoming a better version of me each and every day, while still maintaining those big goals, right? I think it's important for people to have 5-10-year goals, but you don't see the successful people who have 5-10-year goals are still doing the things every single day that lead up to that, right? So that's what it means to me, is just making sure I'm keeping my eyes like focused and
more like big picture, long term stuff.
Yeah, big picture, and just there's going to be distractions, there's going to be things thrown at you, there's going to be curveballs. Just making sure that every day I'm treating myself and other people in a way that's going to allow me to be my best self tomorrow, and also help them be their best selves tomorrow.
Beautiful, man. Very cool. Well, Doug, where can everybody find you? Of course, I'm going to have all your stuff, links for everybody in the show notes and here in the video. Where are you hanging out the most online? Like, where can they connect with you?
So if they want to find me on Instagram, at Doug Bopst.
Okay.
And then like if they want more information on what they can do to kind of like wake up and be like their best self, you know what I mean? They can, I have a cool little checklist. If they go to www.dougbopst.com/free, they can get a little checklist and kind of talk about some of the stuff we went over in the show today. Yeah,
great highlights definitely to take away. Listen to the show, watch the show here, and then take action. Like I always say, knowing without doing is simply the same thing as not knowing. So it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for reaching out.
You
Thanks
too,
for coming on. We're going to keep your world tour going here, wrapping up in LA, maybe going to another podcast right after this, get some time to kill.
Yeah.
And safe travels, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.